And hello once again, everybody. John Kohler sitting in for Aaron Harper with today's edition of In Touch. It's In Touch with Dr. John Nowicki.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Good to see you, Doctor.
Oh, good to see you again.
Summertime.
Yeah, it's summertime.
We get to go out and play and do things, but we got to take care.
Well, we do. And I mean, today is Thursday. I think it's the last day of school for everybody.
Yeah.
How cool is that? But here's the deal. Football season coming up. Not too far away, believe it or not. I know, kids, you guys are listening to this right now going, really?
Yeah, the juniors are going, what?
Yeah. So the rest will end shortly for you that are in fall sports. And football's a biggie. Summer right now, it's soccer. And I'll tell you what, we're really big in prevention. And one of the things we need to be aware of is with these contact collision sports is the issue of concussion. And if you've seen the movie, you know the buzz about it. Will Smith was in it, but that's really kind of a past history. The problem with concussion is that it's changing every day, new information coming out. So we're going to have a workshop on July 13th, 6 p.m. It's at my office, and we're inviting all coaches, athletic directors, school administrators, and any concerned parent to come to that. But let's do a little preview and kind of talk about why you'd be interested in coming to a workshop anyways at my clinic.
Right.
Okay.
Because it used to be a player he got his bell wrong. So you give him some smelling salt, you put him back in the game.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get into that because that's kind of the testing in the old days, and frankly, we still use it. I get it. You know, I was there, right? How many fingers? Well, you knew it always two, right?
Yeah.
And what night is it? It's Friday night. It's football. Duh, right? So you could be blind, deaf, and dumb, and knocked out cold, and you'd be able to mumble a correct response, and the coach would say,
Yeah, he's all right.
okay, you're good enough, go back in.
That's right.
And not to slam the coaches in any way. Most of these guys, I mean, that's not a job they want, right? And it's what they were taught, so it's what they did, and boom, you know?
The
you go
education's
back in.
improved.
Exactly. The understanding has. Now all these coaches, man, they got to go through this testing for Michigan and Wisconsin both to understand at least a good basis of the concussion issue. So let's talk about it a little bit. The forces involved in concussion. If you've listened to me at any length of time, you know that I really, really enjoy working with and documenting injuries from car crashes. A biggie is the whiplash. That's 4 to 10 G's of force to tear ligaments in your neck. Like you can get a torn ACL in your knee, you got 10 different ones in your neck between each pair of vertebra, bones in your neck.
Right.
All right. Now, whiplash is painful, but a concussion can be upwards of 90 G. 90 G. And you're taking an object, the brain, okay, that has a consistency of butter, like an overripe tomato, and slamming it into a hard rock-like structure like the skull, all right? So you've got bleeding, you've got leaking, you've got damage of the neural connections, the fibers of the brain. So when we look at that, there's a few points that come out, counterintuitive points. 1/3 of concussions in sports happen in practice. Okay? And 70% of the kids that were surveyed that had a concussion played with symptoms of a concussion afterwards. 70%. So they were released to play too soon, which brings us into the concussion roulette part of this. Because last year, the number was 18 kids died on the field from being let go to play too soon.
Wow.
Hey, 18.
That's staggering. That's 18 too many.
That's 18 lives
Yeah.
that affected every parent, brothers, sisters, their teammates, you name it. And, you know, those are the headlines. But there's another side to this. It's not just concussion roulette. It's peak performance. And when you get a concussion, it affects your body in many other ways. All right. One is an increased risk of extremity injury. You have a 3.79 times increased risk of an ACL tear post-concussion. Ask Teddy Bridgewater, right? Last year he blew his knee up in just practicing, just starting to throw the ball, standing still virtually. Missed the whole season, may never play again. So he's one of those 3.79 timesers that makes up that number. He was concussed the year before. All right. You got a twofold increased risk of having Tommy John surgery after a concussion. You got a 6-fold increased risk of a bad ankle sprain following a concussion. All right. These are like a blown ACL is a potential career ender. It evaporates scholarships. You get depressed over it. We've had a couple depression cases show up in the UP with football.
Right.
Not pretty, right? Okay, so that's one issue. The other thing is within 3 hours post-concussion, you end up getting what's called leaky gut. All right, so that actually starts giving you bloating, gassiness, gut problems, all right? And that can evolve into autoimmune issues when you have leaky gut. So it gives you a lifetime of problems with digestion. And if you know anybody that's got celiac disease, leaky gut, all these things that they call gut pain from poor digestive issues and whatnot, it's a problem. You
Right.
don't want your child being set up for that. And then, of course, okay, my kid's not going to get a scholarship academically or athletically. That's not that big of a deal to me if they, have a knee problem or an ankle problem. But get this, the studies came out last year. This affects everybody. You have lower academic performance. Your grades drop. Okay, so that's not only an academic scholarship potentially lost, but we all need to be as sharp as possible in this world. We're competing in the world economy. You can't be a few degrees less than you should be. You want your children to be as sharp as possible. So those are the three biggies that happen post-concussion, besides the concussion roulette of death on the field. So, when we look at this, one of the questions that comes up is oftentimes parents will say, well, what meds are there? What drugs? Well, the short answer is there are none.
Right.
Your brain's leaking. It's damaged. It needs rest. All right. Aspirin causes bleeding in the gut. Well, it does the same thing in the brain. All right. Tylenol rots your liver. Do you really want to throw that toxin on a brain that's already leaking and damaged? Oftentimes, emergency room records and so forth will be looked at, and they'll end up having migraine meds prescribed to these kids, these victims of brain injury. And let's call it
Right.
what it is. It's brain injury.
Oh,
It's
yeah?
not a dinger. It's not a bell rung, right?
Right, yeah, it's the bell.
Yeah, this is brain injury. So, again, what that's going to do, those drugs are going to mask the pain, but you don't want to mask the pain. You want to be fully aware of what's going on, because if you mask the pain, you're releasing that child back to play too soon, risking all those devastating issues we just talked about. So you don't want to use meds. There's really no place. The other issue that we get into is the baseline testing. And frankly, like you brought up earlier, it's no more oftentimes objective than how many fingers am I holding up.
Right.
All right. You always knew it was terrible. Impact test. 21 of 22 studies that were published at one time to show that it works and is effective at predicting whether your child is recovered were written by the MDs that profit off the test, that own the test.
Right.
That's a patented product. Okay, somebody's paying to have that taken.
They're not going to
even-
slam their own product.
No, there's ways to fudge research. It's well known in the drug research community, published in the AMA Journal talking about that, how it gets fudged. And you can understand that if this data is supposed to support their product and it's done by them, well, yeah. So there's a reason parents aren't trusting it. The other thing coming down from the coaches, ADs, and so forth right now regarding the impact test is kids, they sandbag it. They know that if they score high and they get concussed because their older brother told them, you ain't getting back to play anytime soon. So what they do is they go down and take the test and they dumb it down. So the testing that a parent is thinking is giving them a baseline test is worthless.
Right.
Okay? So then the kid gets concussed. They can easily achieve their last number, and boom, they're back to play and putting themselves in the line of fire. So in my office, what we're doing, and don't get me wrong, the NFL uses the impact test. If you want NFL results, what do they get? Vegetables for adults, right? The Mike Webster story.
Yeah.
And billion-dollar lawsuits. And that was
That's
a
right.
low number. It should have been way more than that. They got lucky. All right, so if you want those results, rely on the impact test. All right, in our office, we use the new gold standard that is cleared in 28 countries of the EU. It's cleared in the U.S., Canada. But that's not the only thing. See, my background is that of an EMT. Okay, and any of you that have been trained as an EMT or first responder know that if you've got a head injury, you assume a neck injury. And that's exactly what I look at and assume. If your child comes in with any history of collision sports, we're going to look at doing the new technology to test for a baseline, but we're also going to do a thorough case history, minutes, and we'll do an examination of the neck, specifically the upper neck. All right? So that gives us a physical exam to match up and correlate. All right? You can't fake my physical exam findings. All right, they're objective. The parent will see them. When we find a problem in the neck that could be causing this, what they call a mismatch, okay? In other words, when you get a concussion, that what sets you up for these extremity injuries is your brain suddenly doesn't know exactly where you are in space. It upsets your positional awareness, so you're off by a little bit. My exam will detect where those areas are that are interfering with your nervous system's ability to perceive reality. All right?
One question I've always had, real quick.
Yeah.
Is there such a thing as a mild concussion? Is that like a mild heart attack?
It's like being mildly pregnant.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've heard that term. He had a mild concussion.
Yeah, that's a
It's
bunch.
either concussion or it isn't, right?
If it's not your kid, you can call it
Yeah,
mild.
it's a mild heart attack if the other guy gets it.
Yeah, exactly.
So
You-
is there such a thing as that?
None. They call it mild head injuries.
Right.
But
It's a head
that's
injury.
like saying it's mild compared to a gunshot wound to the head.
Right, yeah, but it's still a head injury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of the impact of the issue we talked about there, the extremity injuries, the bowel disruption that occurs, the lowered grades. They create a malfunction in the way the brain functions. MRIs don't show much, all right? Unless you got a serious bleed coming, all right? But the problem is that we've used these euphemisms. Oh, he just got his bell rung.
Right.
Be a man, get out there and hit him
That's
again.
right.
The running back, the linebacker, they'll run back to the huddle, and their legs will be frickin' rubber, and they'll say, okay, let's huddle a little bit as long as we can take. Let Joe get his legs back,
Yeah.
right? Get his legs back. When he's got his legs back, then he can go and hit him again.
That's right.
Okay, so you're repeatedly concussing that brain. All right, so if you want to find more about what we do and more about this and how it can benefit your team, your children that you're responsible for, school administrators, okay, parents, okay, give my office a call, 779-1300. Seating's limited. We can hold about 25 people in my office, and then it's shoulder to shoulder at that. So make sure you get a seat at the table, so to speak. Get this information. Your children deserve it. Their brains deserve this information.
Because you're seeing these NFL players now.
These NFL players are in terrible shape.
Oh, yeah.
Brett Favre, he was the biggest first name that came out after the issue showed up. Okay, and what he said was he had forgotten 60% of his daughter's soccer games the year before when he was interviewed. 60%. Do you want your child to be set up for that? If you want your child to be able to be playing safely, there is a way. And we're going to talk about how we set them up for safe play and to give you confidence to allow them to go and play collision and contact sports in the first place. And moms, dads, it's not just the boys. Girls, hour for hour, have more head injuries and concussions than boys for the same sport, soccer and so forth. Hour for hour, girls have a higher risk. We'll talk about why they do in our workshop.
Those headers in soccer.
Yeah, but why do girls have it more than guys? We'll talk about why. All right? Yeah, guys and girls both give headers. Man, oh man, yeah, they're a problem, but we'll talk about why the women have higher risk than the guys. It's devastating for the ladies as well. All right? And how many of you have daughters that have on their bucket list the scar from an ACL surgery? Who wants that on the front of your daughter's knee?
Oh, sure.
It's not pretty, right? 1/4 inch wide, 6 inch long. Ow. So if you could prevent that, wouldn't you want to? So the workshop, July 13th, 6 o'clock, my office. Okay. To arrange for that, call the clinic at 906-779-1300. Give us a call.
But it's interesting what you speak to because you, as an athlete, know it from that perspective, but you were involved in an auto mishap a couple of years ago.
Yeah, this isn't-
So this is something you can speak to as firsthand from both sides.
Yeah, I've knocked coconuts playing soccer. I've smacked my head too many times snowboarding. But it's not just sports. All right, it's not organized sports. It's not just action sports. Car accidents, slips and falls on ice. I got a good friend whose brother spent weeks, months down in Green Bay for an internal bleed in his head that happened slipping on the ice at a local grocery store this winter.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is not just sports.
Right.
Great point. Thanks for pointing that out. I'm a specialist in getting hit with my car. The last one, I was hit T-boned over at 141 in Brighting. Major concussion. It's part of why I became more expert in this field. Somebody has to be locally, and we're your resource for the information that's going to save your child and get them out there to play safe.
Dr. John Nowicki, thank you very much for being with us, and here's to a good, healthy month.
Thanks for having me.
Sitting in for Aaron Harper, I'm John Kohler.